Okay, now let's talk a little bit about port forwarding. And you can see down here that it even tells you that to allow direct internet access to services running on your server, configure port mapping on your router. Now, the great thing about Lion Server is the fact that it will configure your router and it will control your router itself. If you look over here in hardware on the sidebar, you can see that my office router that I've got set up is right here, and all the information is ready to go. Now when you see this for the first time, what you're probably going to see is a screen that just asks you if you want the router to configure it, and you'll have no services in here, nothing will be running. And if you say yes, it's just going to ask you for the password for your router so that it can store it and then basically take over your router, and it will configure itself so that it has control over your router. And again, it's a really great tool. It's neat to have it all in one place, and it works rather well. As you can see here, I've got various services provided. Now, just to give you a little bit of background on what it means to port forward, your router itself kind of serves as a hardware firewall against the internet. And so you have everything in your local network, which is, probably in your home in this case, which we're talking about setting up a home server, and you have all the devices that connect to your network locally here. But people on the outside, your router is attached probably to a cable modem, and that cable modem has access to the internet. And so anybody outside of that area doesn't have access to the things that you do. Just to give you a picture, let me just pull up Airport Utility again. This just gives you a good picture. Anything down this way is your local network. Anything up this way is the outside internet. And so this office router that I have, which is the primary one connected to my cable modem, is the thing that keeps things outside here on the internet out of my local network. So it's a security piece. It's like a firewall. It's a hardware firewall. But I still want to get accesses because I'm running a server. My server's back here, right? My server's attached in here to the Office Airport Extreme. I still want certain services to get both in and out to my server. And so what port forwarding is basically it's opening a hole in this office router electronically to allow those services to pass back and forth. And so once those things are opened up, then I can begin to have those services accessible on the internet and on the outside world. Now if you're just running a local server, you don't have to worry about that because you really don't care about anything on the outside. You're just looking on the inside, and you don't want to be able to access your server remotely. But if you do, you've got to use port forwarding in order to get stuff accessible and out there. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the router in a minute. But right here in the server application, I've got my router over here. There's my hardware. And I've got these various public services that I have opened up to have access. And for instance, I can remove services or I can update them. I can add more services. So if I just click the plus button, remote login is something that I haven't added. I can even add my own custom services that I want to see added, and so I can name it whatever I want, and I can choose the port that I want to use to open it. Now the beauty of this is that I don't have to do that for the normal services because the server app already knows the ports that need to be forwarded and opened if I want to have any of these services on the side here open and accessible on the internet. So it does make it really convenient. I don't have to go looking up port numbers and things like that. But if you do have certain services that need ports open to get on the outside, maybe you have other software you want to have that happen for, you can go ahead and put the service name in here. You can put the port number in. You add it to the list here. And once you do that, then you'll have a little button here that says restart. You click restart, and what it will do is automatically restart your router. And once it's done that, the information will show up in the router screen. So let me show you what happens, assuming that I just added all of these. Again, I had these set up already, but let's say I just added all of these. What would it look like then on the router once the router's been restarted? So if we come in here again to my router, I click Edit and pull it up, and we're going to go back to the network over here. And you'll notice down here it says port mapping. Now you want to make sure if this isn't already marked, you want to enable NAT port mapping protocol. Otherwise, none of this works. So you've got to make sure that that's available and open. But if you look down here, you'll notice that it has added all of these different services. And if you notice, if I just pull this over here for a second, you can see that these things, I'm just going to overlap it, these things match the information that we see here. I don't have SSH turned on. Little side note, I would recommend you not turn on SSH unless you really need access remotely. You know what SSH is for and you're going to use it for different things, because SSH is a favorite port where hackers like to hack to try to see if they can break down your internet security and get into your computer. So better just to leave this off. If you've ever looked at log files, as soon as you make that available, there's people all over the world start hitting it, and it can kind of be scary when you're looking at the logs. So I usually just leave it off because I don't use it much at all. But you can see here's screen sharing, and I've got screen sharing over here. If I scroll down here, I've got iCal service. There it is right there. And so what's happened is the server has configured these for me and put them here and has turned them on and enabled them, because I've said over here I want them enabled. If I go back over here and I take one of them off and I delete it and I restart the router, all of a sudden the checkbox will be gone and that information will be there. Now, a couple of things I've noticed, I don't know if it's a bug, but it's something that I've experienced, is when you remove services over here or you add them, what can tend to happen is the server app can add all of these services again, and pretty soon you have duplicates of these here, and you need to go in and just delete the duplicates. I'm not sure why that is doing it. It's probably a bug in the system, but if that happens to you, don't be freaked out. I've had that happen myself. But just to give you a feel for what this looks like, so here's the screen sharing service on VNC. Let me just click edit for a second, and this is what it does. So it's got the service here. Here are the different ports that it's opening. It's got my private IP address in here as well, but these are the ports 5900 and 3283 that need to be opened if screen sharing is going to work on my server, so that I can get in and actually share my screen and access the server remotely. So it's kind of neat that it goes through and sets those things up for you. And like I said, if you make any changes, you can still add these manually, right? You can hit a plus sign here and you can add your own service, right? And you can pick what type of service it is, and it's kind of a simple way to do that, but you got to know the ports that you need to open. Once you do that, you click update. When you're done, it reboots the router again, and then now those services are available and something you can access on the internet. So that gives you a good idea and a feel for how this works with the server when you're setting up your network preferences. And like I said, you can do it various ways, but this is the way that I've set it up to be able to access my fully qualified domain name from the internet to get into my server. All right, well, that's all I have for today on setting up your network, getting your network set up on Lion Server. Hopefully that helps you in setting up your own server. Again, if you have any questions or anything, just leave something in the notes and maybe I'll see if I can address that. So again, hopefully you enjoyed that screencast, and as always, I'll be back at you with another screencast to help you do more things with your Mac.